We're up. Please begin your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I'm going to begin with AB 2223. I want to begin by accepting the committee's proposed amendment and thank the chairman and the committee staff for their work on this bill. AB 2223 appropriates $100 million annually to the Department of Food and Agriculture to incentivize the adoption of dairy digesters and other methane reduction technologies for California's dairy and livestock industries. Short-lived climate pollutants, including methane, have an impact on the climate change tens, hundreds, or even thousands of times greater than carbon dioxide. California's dairy and livestock industries account for a significant share of the state's total methane emissions, and the Air Resources Board described the reduction of methane emissions as the only practical way to immediately slow global warming. The ARB's strategy to reduce manure methane emissions calls...
Move the bill.
This is good public policy, members, and I would respectfully ask for your aye vote. I have a couple of folks with me in support of the bill.
Each witness has 2 minutes. Please begin.
Michael Bocador on behalf of the Ag Energy Consumers Association. We work closely with the state's leading dairy digester developers as well as the dairy industry. In strong support, I think, as Mr. Gray has stated, dairy digesters represent one of the best ways to reduce methane in California, provide significant bang for the buck. To answer Mr. Garcia's points from earlier, dairy digesters can reduce methane for as little as $2 per ton of CO2e equivalent. So they represent a tremendous investment of GGRF funds, and request your aye vote.
Mr. Chair, members, Ed Manning on behalf of the Western United Dairymen in support. The dairy industry is in a difficult situation in California in that, unlike a lot of other industries, the price of milk is set by the Department of Food and Agriculture, so you can't readily pass through increased costs. So having the state help develop the infrastructure for biomethane and having it help develop the market for things like compost and biofuels is going to be critically important if California is going to really tackle this problem and be a leader. So we appreciate the authors' help and support, and think this is, as Michael said, this is one of the investments that you really know truly pencils out. So we support the bill. Thank you.
Mr. Chair and members, Erin Niemela representing Land O'Lakes, also in support of the bill for all the reasons stated. Thank you.
Further witnesses, just state your name and your organization and your support.
Mr. Chair and members, Tricia Geringer with Agricultural Council of California, representing Dairy Farmers of America, California Dairies, Inc., and Land O'Lakes, also in support.
Lauren Nolan-Tajic for CDI, also in support.
John Moffitt for the Milk Producers Council, in support.
Witnesses in opposition? Or tweeners if there's not any opposition?
Good morning, Chair and members. Katrina Robinson on behalf of John Wick, and he is co-founder of the Marine Carbon Project and the Global Compost Project. I'm a tweener, so I'm going to go quickly before opposition. We look forward to supporting the bill. We are certainly in support of the concept of the bill. We think it's very important to support incentives for dairy digesters and for other potentially less costly ways of reducing methane emissions and dealing with manure from dairies. And we certainly support the voluntary approach to help dairies meet the methane emission reduction standards and other greenhouse gas emission reduction standards that the state sets. Thank you.
Morning. Good afternoon, sorry. Eddie Moreno on behalf of Sierra Club, California. We oppose this bill. Currently, the Air Resources Board is looking for ways to reduce methane emissions from dairies. We're waiting for the final version of the short-lived climate pollutant strategy to see what recommendations they develop for the industry, so we think this bill is a bit premature. We feel this money could be better used for the environmental justice communities. For example, getting or supporting the move of renewable energy into those communities. And I think I'll leave it at that for now.
Phoebe Seaton, Leadership Council for Justice accountability. Echo what Sierra Club stated. Also, we continue to be concerned that the dairy digester program has a disparate impact on disadvantaged communities, those that the GGRF program is designed to support. And until that's worked out, we can't support this proposal. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Other witnesses in opposition? Just want to clarify, you're taking the amendments, correct?
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I took the amendments in the opening statement.
Great, thank you, Mr. Gray. I had to exit the room for a moment. So, like the other GGRF bills, essentially the fiscal component is being removed by removing the continuous appropriation and making the language up to an amount to again preserve the authority of budget and appropriations, and so that this committee is not usurping that authority. Would you like to close, Mr. Gray?
Well, as much as I would love to help you usurp that authority, I will take those amendments and proceed and respectfully ask for your aye vote, members. This is a good bill. It's cost effective. It's the right thing to do, and appreciate your aye vote.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
The motion is do pass as amended and re-refer to the Agriculture Committee. Williams?
Aye.
Williams, aye. Jones?
Come back.
Jones?
Not voting?
Christina Garcia?
Aye.
Aye. Gomez? Aye. Gomez, aye. Hadley?
Aye.
Hadley, aye. Harper?
Aye.
Harper, aye. McCarty?
Aye.
McCarty, aye. Stone? No. Stone, no. Wood?
Aye.
Wood, aye.
Jones, aye.
Jones, aye. Thank you.
Your bill is out.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this point, members, we will move to AB 2576. AB 2576 appropriates $20 million to the glass container manufacturers located in California for the purpose of purchasing recycled glass known as cullet, which is used in the manufacturing of new glass containers. Use of cullet is the key mechanism used by glass manufacturers to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. For every 6 tons used to make new bottles, there is a 1 ton reduction of greenhouse gases. However, cullet is expensive. This will help glass manufacturers purchase more cullet, which in turn will lower emissions. This presents an opportunity for the legislature to use cap and trade dollars to benefit the working class in California, particularly those union workers in the Central Valley that work in 3 of the 4 remaining plants in the state. Glass is a green, environmentally friendly product. Members, I know the LAO proposed arguments or proposed the question, I should say, that should covered entities derive a benefit from the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund if they are required to reduce emissions as a matter of law. Glass plants can only reduce emissions by utilizing cullet. If they cannot afford the cullet or the supply of cullet is insufficient, then they will be forced to buy allowances. Glass does not have to be made in California, and the buying of allowances would put California glass at a significant disadvantage. And again, these plants located in the Central Valley, which I will remind you has decade-long systemic double-digit unemployment, and so we need to be careful. This is an opportunity to use funds in a way that has multiple benefits. Given this unique circumstance, it is my position that the glass containers manufacturers should be an exemption from the LAO's point of view. With that said, I believe the conversation on how to best appropriate these funds is still very much underway, so if the committee would like to offer those amendments and allow this bill to remain in part for the larger conversation, I am happy to accept those and other suggested amendments per the analysis. I have with me today some testimony and support, and I suspect we'll find some in opposition.
Mike Robeson on behalf of the Glass Packaging Institute, the trade association of glass manufacturers. As Mr. Gray indicated, there's still 4 glass manufacturers located in California providing solid jobs, good wages, and the glass container manufacturing in California is in addition to everything that Mr. Gray said, which was really hard to add more to what he said. The one key thing that the glass container manufacturers in California provide is a location for the recycled glass that you all are recycling, and on your every day. We're the largest end user of recycled glass, and if the glass plants in California are not here because it's too expensive to be here because of cap and trade or other reasons, but cap and trade is going to be a cost to glass container manufacturing in California. If they're not here in California, the recycled glass that is moving through our recycling system will need to find a place to go, and it'll go to farther places. So there'll be transportation costs inherent in that, and that'll just drive up GHG emissions. And so while, like Mr. Gray said, for every 6 tons of recycled glass, there's a 1 ton emission reduction, and it helps the recycling program, and it provides necessary high-paying jobs that will help all the people that were standing in line here on the very first bill. The number one way to help everybody in disadvantaged communities is to provide a high-paying job, and I think that there'll be testimony that follows me that will kind of reiterate that point.
Thank you. My name is Charles McIntyre. I'm president of the West Coast Protective League. I represent the workers that work in these glass plants. I myself am a third-generation glass man. My children also work in this industry. It's an old industry here in the state of California. At one time, there was 19 glass plants in this state that had 26,000 union jobs. Now we have 4 glass plants, and we have less than 2,000 union jobs. And these are jobs that are skilled trade. They have union benefits, and they pay pretty good wages. You have a chance to really help the state of California out and these workers because, we all talk about green jobs. You have green jobs in these glass plants. We manufacture a container as the friendliest container on the planet, and plus when we recycle this container, it helps a lot of things. And getting back to the greenhouse gases, that we make an environmentally product. We keep all the glass out of the landfills. By recycling, we save a lot of the raw material, so we're not tearing up the ground to make these containers. And so there's a lot of benefits to this. So we're in support, and we really need your help to continue this and keep these manufacturing jobs in the state. I'd like to see more glass plants built in this state instead of losing glass plants. Thank you very much.
Chairman and member Jerry Haliva on behalf of Owens, Illinois. Owens, Illinois is a global company that operates 2 of the 4 glass plants here in California. Represented Owens, Illinois for a lot of years, and unfortunately I've watched a lot of these facilities close, including the one that just closed in Oakland. And the jobs that Mr. McIntyre referred to were lost as part of that closure. What a lot of people don't grasp is that this is a globally competitive industry. A lot of glass plants have not closed and gone away. They've closed and moved to Mexico or other states. And so what I think is important, if we're going to have a glass recycling industry in California, you have to have glass container manufacturers remain financially competitive in this state. This bill uses appropriate sources of funds to help ensure that we're reducing our greenhouse gas emissions and keeping these important jobs here in California. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members, Mark Murray with the Environmental Group Californians Against Waste. I don't think I could say it better than Assemblymember Gray, that when we use recycled content, we are reducing greenhouse gas emissions. We're going to continue to sell our beer in glass bottles in the state. The only question is whether we can actually be manufacturing those bottles in this state. This is a win-win-win in terms of being able to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, both by we use the highest levels of recycled content in the world at our glass plants here in California. We need to continue to support those glass plants. We just had a glass plant close in Oakland. It's important for our environmental goals, it's important for our emission reduction goals, and it's important for our economic development goals to keep these glass plants here in California. Urge an aye vote.
Thank you. Additional witness in support, just state your name, your organization, and support.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, Dawn Kepke with McHugh Kepke & Associates on behalf of Strategic Materials Incorporated, and they are the largest glass processor here in California, and pleased to be in support. Thank you.
Witnesses in opposition? Witnesses with testimony neither in support nor opposition. To the committee, questions? Mr. Stone.
Yeah, I didn't quite get a chance on the last bill to make the same point. I don't necessarily disagree with what you're trying to accomplish here, nor in the previous one. I agree that there's a tremendous amount of bang for buck that we could get there and we can get here. I just think this is the wrong way to be going about it. we see bills every year in this committee trying to grab bits and pieces of GGRF without having a broader picture or a plan for what we expect to accomplish under the GGRF funds. So before we start agreeing here to be doling out money, and especially industries that potentially could come under the cap themselves anyway, I would rather we took a step back, took a look at all of the requests, build what the Assembly is supposed to be building with respect to the GGRF, negotiate that with the governor, negotiate that with the Senate, and have a plan. Because I think these are potentially worthy. There are others that I think are potentially worthy that we're really not talking about or necessarily putting on the table because we don't have a plan. This is likely not to get through approps. It will probably get, if it gets all the way through, vetoed by the governor, and we will probably, hopefully this year, we'll do the budget trailer bill that addresses the GGRF funding in a comprehensive way. So I just think this is making a statement, which I appreciate, but without a real end here, because we don't have and haven't developed what the plan is supposed to be, that we can look at the trade-offs in who we're funding and why, and in how we actually effectively address GGRF expenditures in a way that meet the overall goals for California. So we can continue, and assuming we will see bits and pieces as they come through, but it doesn't make sense to me to do this in a piecemeal manner.
Thank you, Mr. Stone, for the comments and question. I mean, I would say I don't necessarily disagree with the point that you're driving home. It's a similar argument that I made when we were doing water policy in the last session, and we failed to connect the dots in the regions and have a comprehensive plan. Oftentimes that yields bad results. But as you know, inland California, particularly the central San Joaquin Valley, is oftentimes first in line to pay on some of the policies that this body puts forward, and we're certainly going to try to be first in line to benefit on an occasion and make that statement. And I think here we've brought a couple of good proposals that hopefully could be part of a larger comprehensive plan.
And I think on that, I would rather see, like some of the other bills that have come through, and again, they're not likely to be successful ultimately either through the entire process. But if we were running policy bills in a coordinated way to say what kinds of projects or what kinds of areas we wanted to be seeing that investment in, if we wanted to provide some incentives, for example, in the Central Valley, because of the payments because of the resources going to GGRF coming out of the Central Valley, I completely recognize that. But you're also getting some benefit, and we're not looking at the expenditures, the benefits. We're not looking at this comprehensively, and I think we send the wrong message saying, oh, well, this is all up for grabs. Let's just do a bill here to put money here and do a bill there to put money there. Again, I don't disagree with glass or with digesters or with any particular worthy cause, but I think we're working against ourselves if we're not looking at a bigger picture here with GGRF and figuring out what we're supposed to be accomplishing, how we do those trade-offs, where we want to spend it, what those criteria are, and then moving forward with the plan.
Mr. Gomez.
Mr. Gray, I'm going to be following the chair's recommendation and support your bill today, but at the same time, I just kind of want to stress that I believe that every member has a right to introduce whatever bill they want because they got rightfully elected to this body. That doesn't mean that we don't have to think strategically in the long term. Last year, we passed, in my previous role as appropriation chair, we looked at what kind of bills were getting released from the Senate side as well as our side and kind of switched them, threw them over to the other chamber. In the ideal world, what would have happened with those bills that were appropriated a certain amount of money from GGRF is that we would have actually done what Mr. Stone was suggesting. We would have come up with a comprehensive plan and negotiated an agreement between the two houses and something that would have got the support from the governor and actually got the signature. So I'm a realist that it will probably end up working out that way and not necessarily individual bills. But it is something that I think members should do is kind of put bills forward that kind of highlight the needs of their district and their constituents, understanding that there are political and legislative limitations to those. And in the end, we want to let people's voices actually be heard in the people's house. So I'm very supportive of that. And I know for a fact that we probably have more, and if we took all the GGRF bills from the Senate and the Assembly and put them all together and add them up, it will probably be more than we actually have in the fund. So we still have a long ways to go, and I know it's a negotiation, so I appreciate you bringing this bill forward. But in the end, I do believe we need to figure this out and how to come together and, as Mr. Stone said, think strategically and get a deal that we can actually get passed instead of waiting another year for the allocation of those funds.
Yes, Mr. Stone's point is, I think, an important one. The main venue for a budget request will be the Budget Committee. I do happen to sit on Budget Sub 3 too, so this is useful information. But Mr. Grabe does bring up an important issue in the state, which is how do we deal with a situation where we could actually lose a manufacturer from the state and yet continue to use the product, which would only increase GHG emissions. And so it is an important issue to bring up. This is, I would say, maybe the poster child for that kind of question, because we can't really stop the demand, but we sure could lose the plants. And when we have strong recycled content laws in this state, that would be a loss both to our recycling and to our greenhouse gas emission goals. Yes. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to thank you for working on the amendments and accepting those, and that helps me support the bill today. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the committee? With that, please call the roll. Oh, do we have a motion? Motion by McCarty, second by Wood. Would you like to close?
Well, I appreciate, members, the discussion. I appreciate the points made. And in the absence of a comprehensive plan with the administration and leadership, we will continue to fight the good fight of Robin Hood of the fund, and respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Please call the roll.
The motion is due pass as amended and re-referred to Appropriations Committee. Williams?
Aye.
Williams, aye. Jones? Aye. Jones, aye. Christina Garcia? Aye. Aye. Gomez? Aye. Gomez, aye. Hadley? Aye. Hadley, aye. Harper? McCarty? Aye. McCarty, aye. Stone? No. Stone, no. Wood? Aye. Wood, aye.
7-1, your bill's out.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Ms. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Ready for me to start. AB 2181 establishes the California Green Infrastructure Program to encourage state procurement of building materials from California companies. Executive Order B 1812, issued by Governor Brown, requires state agencies and departments to green California's building stock by taking into account the full cycle emissions of the building materials they procure for new construction and renovations. This bill hopes to achieve that. For instance, procuring steel that's manufactured in California instead of Asia will reduce 145,000 tons of GHG. And that's every year because of the stricter emission requirement of California and the shortened distance it would travel in order to reach the in-state construction sites. This is a benefit to both our state's economy and the environment. AB 2181 would create the California Green Infrastructure Program to encourage state agencies, departments, public universities to procure locally sourced building materials as a means to help achieve California's twin goal of reducing GHG emissions and growing our green economy. Lastly, I will be accepting committee amendments that clarify The bill is limited to iron, steel, cement, and flat glass manufacturing. By procuring these building materials from California manufacturers, we can drastically cut emissions and improve California's economy.
Witnesses in support, you each have 2 minutes.
Very good. Thank you, Chairman and committee members, for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Mark Olson. I'm the Vice President and General Manager of Gerdau Steel. I manage the operation of Gerdau Steel Mill in Rancho Cucamonga. Gerdau's Rancho Cucamonga facility is the last steel mill left in California that actually melts steel. We recycle steel sourced from the Los Angeles area, melt it, and make high-quality rebar that is used in large infrastructure and commercial projects throughout the state. Gerdau employs 1,100 people in California. We have an annual payroll of over $73 million. And these are good middle-class jobs that average $45 an hour, including benefits. Our use of recycled steel in California's advanced energy and emission reduction requirements have made Gerdau's rebar some of the greenest and cleanest steel products available. The addition of a new multi-million-dollar environmental control system in 2017 will make our Rancho Cucamonga mill the cleanest in the nation. Gerdau supports AB 2181 because it shows that California values efforts made by companies like mine to produce greener, cleaner, high-quality products. It requires California state agencies to acknowledge the environmental and climate goals outlined by the legislature and governor and develop a process to evaluate and procure products with better environmental profiles. If companies like mine are going to invest significant amounts of money to improve the emissions profile of their production facilities, we would like to see the state place a value on procuring a greener, cleaner product. This effort will help California meet its greenhouse gas reduction goals, and it will develop a market for greener products. Thank you.
Hey, my name is Paul Ortiz. Thank you for your time and the opportunity to come before you. I'm the president of Local 8065, which is United Steelworkers, here in Rancho Cucamonga for the Gerdau plant. We have approximately 200 employees with families total that work there. I'm here today in support of AB 2181. I'm not used to doing this, so you excuse me. This important bill prioritizes goods produced by companies like Gerdau that have relatively small carbon footprints when California embarks on major infrastructure projects of more than $1 million. Excuse me. At Gerdau, we are proud of our company, we are proud of our product, and we're proud of our role in the community. We are also proud of our efforts to produce steel through a low carbon intensity process. Pound for pound, we are among the world leaders in carbon steel making. Gerdau is the last remaining steel maker in the state of California, and we don't want to see the company migrate to a state overseas, taking jobs and carbon emissions with it. We support AB 2181 because we believe it can help the companies like Gerdau in California. We also believe locally produced goods like steel, cement, and other products used in major infrastructure projects will have lower carbon emissions than almost all of our competitors in our countries and other states. This is a dog-eat-dog steel making is a dog. There used to be a steel mill called Kaiser at one time. It went out of business. And I'm going out of my notes, but you know what? We have countries that are taking our jobs out of the state, out of this country. Like Mark was saying, this is the last steel manufactured in this state. One of our major goals is to keep pollutant free in this state, and I think we do a good job at it. I don't know what I can tell you to convince you guys that we need these jobs, and we need them here in this state. It's becoming a warehouse state where all goods coming from all other countries are being stored here, and we're selling them to our people. But you know what? You could be doing us a tremendous favor if you would support this AB 2181. We need your support in this thing. We need your support with our jobs, with our families. We need your help.
Thank you, Chairman and community members. Appreciate the time and the opportunity to speak. My name is Isaac Cruz. I'm also an officer of the United Steelworkers Local 8065, Unit 12 in Rancho Cucamonga. We represent the workers at the Gerdau Steel Mill. I'm here today to support the AB 2181, a bill that will help our mill provide seismic rebar for major infrastructure projects in California by giving preference to producers like Gerdau that have a relatively small carbon footprint. About 2/3 of our mill's product mix is seismic rebar, which is designed to help withstand earthquakes. Who better to provide reinforced steel for California market than an in-state company employing more than 1,000 Californians? We understand like nobody else the role that seismic rebar plays in protecting our state's roads, bridges, tunnels, dams, and other critical infrastructure. As others have mentioned, at Gerdau we produce steel rebar through a low carbon intensity process, but we're also a leading recycler of ferrous scrap. We support AB 2181 because we believe buying and using locally produced goods like the seismic rebar we make will help secure jobs and will also be a good for the environment. We believe AB 2181 builds on Governor Brown's 2015 executive order that says state agencies should take climate change into account in their planning decisions and investments. And we believe that requiring that major publicly financed infrastructure projects use California-made materials whenever feasible based on the low carbon footprint of these locally made goods is smart environmental policy and smart economic policy that will reward California businesses with a low carbon footprint. We urge you to support this important legislation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Other witnesses in support?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Sam Merlino on behalf of the California Field Ironworkers Labor Management and Cooperative Trust. We are in support of the bill.
Thank you. Witnesses in opposition? To the committee. Questions, comments from the committee? Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Brown, thank you for the bill. I was actually prepared to vote no today on your bill, but your witnesses have. I'm going to lay off for today. I have some concerns about costs and what this economically would put on the state and counties and cities as far as increased infrastructure costs and repairs. So maybe we can have that conversation. The reason that the testimony was compelling today is my grandfather was a union iron worker. I grew up in a steel town in Pueblo, Colorado. So I recognize that these jobs are very important to not just the local economy, but the state economy and the national economy as well. And we do need to take steps to protect these good middle-class jobs. So I'm going to lay off today and look forward to having a conversation with you or your supporters and working out the economic aspects of the bill. Thank you.
I just want to clarify for the committee that amendments clarify the bill applies to products rather than industries and specifies that the products are limited to those classified by the ARB as at a high leakage risk, meaning that they would be at a high risk of being replaced by out-of-state product.
Yes, sir.
With that, we have had a motion and a second. Not all the committee members are here, but we will call the roll for those that are here. Would you like to close?
Yes, I'd like to close. I'd just like to close by saying we just had a huge event this morning, and we're celebrating $15 an hour as a minimum wage. Gerdau Steel pays $45 an hour. So I think that we need to really look at what we're doing in the state. It's a good bill, and I'm asking for your support. Thank you.
Please call the roll.
The motion is due pass as amended and re-refer to Accountability and Administrative Review Committee. Williams?
Aye.
Williams, aye. Jones?
Not voting.
Not voting. Christina Garcia?
Aye.
Garcia, aye. Gomez? Hadley? Harper? McCarty?
Aye.
McCarty, aye. Mark Stone? Wood?
Aye.
Wood, aye.
You have 4 votes. We'll hold the roll open for the time being. Great, thank you.
And maybe someone can still change their mind?
They will give them a chance to.
Okay.
Mr. Steinorth.